In today's city update, we're going to be installing the roads and some of the buildings I've worked on over the last few weeks. The first thing I had to do, though, is I had to figure out exactly where my four-way intersection was going to go. And that's what I just drilled the holes and vacuumed up the dust for on the table. Because what I do is with my four-way intersection, I have a small controller that I mount underneath the table, and that is what actually makes that work. So having the correct location for my four-way intersection is probably one of the most important features I can do when it comes to the roadway. And I do plan on placing them throughout my city, as well as all the different types of painted markings you will see on the road. For example, the railroad crossing, which I'm building right now. The built-in paint markings just require a ton of 1x2 plates, and what I'm using here is white and dark blue gray to match my roadway. It's a very simple process, but it's one that provides great results and a really cool level of detail on your roads. And like any great technique, it requires a ton of parts, but the end results are definitely worth it. And something else you'll notice that I've done here, because I'm redoing this entire piece of road, and I'm doing it for a couple reasons. One was to put the paint marking in. Two is because I don't want a sidewalk in front of where the vehicles park. So in order to accomplish that, I had to remove the sidewalks in front of the locations where the parking spaces are, but the first thing I had to do is finish getting the road the full length. Once I get that done, you'll notice I start building the entrance into the parking area. And something else I'm going to make sure I include this time, because everybody pointed it out in my last video, is all the sidewalks are now going to have a handicap ramp for people to be able to come up and down the sidewalks. And I am going to go back at some point, and I'm going to be putting a handicap ramp on the entrance of the train station as well. But back to what I'm doing at hand. Here I'm just trying to simply tile in the sides. You can see that I put in the ramps because I don't really have any other intricate details that I'm going to be putting down here. But now I want to start working on the grassy area that's going to be next to the tracks. And I have to take my fish tape, because I forgot to run a wire all the way through, and shove it all the way through, and then pull my wire all the way through, so that way I can put some more lighting details over here. And what my intention is, once I get this all tiled out and plated out, is I'm going to have a sign that's welcoming you to the town. And I'm also going to be adding in a billboard just to add another little intricate detail to the city. And what I'm doing, because typically I would build everything on a mill's plate, but because this is the front of the table, I'm starting at the plate level. I'm coming up to the tracks, and then on the other side of the tracks, I'm using a bunch of wedge plates to build a slow, curved, sloped wall to come up to the grass. And I'm using a combination of dark tan and also dark nougat, because I feel that's a really good combination to use to give you that sandy look of a hill. And now that I'm about finished with this area, let's start placing some of the buildings that I want to get into my city. The first one is my cafe corner. I modified this years ago and recently finished it up. And I want to ask you guys a question. If you'd like to see the videos of the buildings themselves on this channel, let me know and I will make sure I post those videos here as well. That next building I just placed is the Andy Griffith Police Station. And because in that TV show, right next to that was the actual barber shop, so that's why I put the detective's office right there and had the barber shop next to it. But here's another important feature with all my buildings. For those that don't know, I always run a wire through the base of every building and then up into the building for ease of attachment. And as you can see here, this is why. Because all I have to do is scoot the buildings next to one another. I plug them together, and then I put the plates back down. And again, you can see what I'm doing right here once again. I have a male on one side and a female on the other. And all I do is I take those two plugs, put them together, because there's a male on every left side of the building and I have a female on every right side of the building. So it doesn't matter what building I place in any location, they're always plug and play. I can plug the building in, it's already fully illuminated. Once I get it plugged in, I put the plates back down, I can tile it over, and all my illumination is already pre-wired. It really makes for a very nice way to keep a Lego City Modular and have the lighting all pre-installed and not have that big mess of using all them ugly aftermarket kits. Here's the last building, which is the general store that I am hooking up the wiring to. And again, you'll notice on the other side, you'll see that I have the female plug over there. So If I want to put another building on that side, I still can. But what I'm actually going to be doing on that side is some other details that I'm not 100% sure on yet. So I'm just going to leave that whip out there. And what I'm going to be doing is attaching it to that cable that I pulled through the base of the train station just moments ago, so I can plug everything together and make it work. But first, I wanted to start adding some of my street lights on the front side of the building. And again, I do my streets the exact same way as I do my buildings. But on my streets, I typically make them in large sections. So this will stay a 32 by 32 plated section of roadway. But the thing was, I realized I screwed up. And here's what I mean by I screwed up. I want to put cars on the road. And in order for me to do that and to be able to have them illuminated, because if I'm going to have cars on the road, they have to have lights. I have to be able to take the wires, run them through the road and over to the side. So that's why I'm stopping here, because I have to make up some wiring harnesses for the cars, and I have to do some other modifications to the road. So I can't do any more work on that portion of it. But since we're talking about illumination, let's talk about some quick rules of thumb. With USB ports, blue are 3.0 and white are 2.0. Blue can take up to 100 LEDs and white can take up to 50 LEDs. And I'm going to show you with this handy little tool right here, because my entire city right now is plugged in and all together. And we're going to plug it into this port to show you how many amps it's actually drawing. And I do recommend, if you want to get into lighting, to buy this little tool, because it is extremely handy. As you're going to see right here, right now it's 0, I plug it in, and I am only at 0.58 amps of draw on that one port. So I still have 0.42 amps of draw left, because the port can actually handle 1.5 amps, but to me, it's always better to go low than high, and that's why I say the maximum is 100 LEDs, which is 1 amp. And now let's have a look at the city with all the lights on. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I still have more lights to go, because the cars are going to have lights. I still have more street poles to put on and other details that I want to add, like the billboard at the entrance of the city. But that'll all be in the next city update. One thing I can tell you though, because when I posted the video on the general store, I didn't have lights lighting the general store portion of the sign. And I did add those onto the building before I got everything going. And I'm really happy I did, because it really makes the building look so much better. I'm also looking at the possibility of changing out the hotel lighted sign as well. I do like it, but I feel it might look better if I made my own neon looking version of the sign. Now let's take a quick look at the alleyway, the back side of all the buildings. And again, I tried to include as much detail as I can, and I still have a lot of work to go back here, because I still have to tile everything out and add a few other small details before I consider it finished. But all in all, I'm very happy with the progress, and I wanted to share some of my progress with you guys so you could kind of see where I'm at and where I'm going. In the next city update, you can fully expect to see this front corner done. I'm going to put in some railroad crossing signs. I'm going to put in a vintage gas station next to the train station. I'm going to put the downtown diner on the right-hand corner, and on the opposite side of the street, I intend on putting my illuminated Palace Cinema, because I think that will look fantastic for a small downtown. Anyway, that's all for this video. Until next time, guys.